pack you lift to get out of it.
Yep.
So I will park today.
I don't have a Suburban anymore. I have a smaller car.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the February 12th special board meeting. Here.
Here.
Sheridan. Snyder,
Here.
Denisha,
Here. Here.
Day,
Here.
Webster,
Here.
Burke,
Okay. By circumstances, Legislator Sheridan will be attending remotely. 282-107 Avenue, Treasure Island, Florida. Can I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda by Mr. Hall, Mr. Smith, Ms. Curran, and Ms. Webster? Any discussion on tonight's agenda? Seeing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is passed. Presentation of resolution, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a resolution authorizing the county attorney to act as counsel to legal counsel representing the plaintiff in Higby et al., James et al., seeking a judicial declaration of constitutional concealed carry reciprocity in the state of New York.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Smithers, Mr. White. Good night, Ms. Curran. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Terminal,
I have a resolution, authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Labella Associates for a family court improvement project, opening a capital project, and modifying the 2024 budget for the county administrator's office.
and seconded by Mr. Smithers, Ms. Curran, Mr. Denisha, and Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? No discussion, this will be a roll call vote, please. Yes.
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 Carried. Next resolution, Mr. Denisha.
Mr. Chair, offer a resolution modifying the 2024 budget, social services for flooring and cubicles in the Harold B. Smith Building and Milford's adoption.
And is there a second by Mr. Perkins, Mr. Knapp? Any discussion, Mr. Denisha?
Chair, I'd like to offer an amendment to the and it would be the decrease unappropriated fund balance change from 225,000 to 156,890, and increase appropriated fund balance would change from $225,000 to $156,890. And increased appropriations would be $46,700.
Okay.
For a total of $301,700.
And is there a second? Second by Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Knapp.
Increased revenue. Four revenue lines, with total $144,810, two administrative, 28,000. Yeah, 28,651. Child welfare administrator, $72,721, and one food stamp administrator, $8,119. A total of $36,019.
So second, yes.
And any discussion? The county administrator would like to give us something.
So I appreciate adding the note to the resolution as it went out in the special board meeting packet. Appreciate Legislator Denisha making the amendments. We were able to decrease the amount that we need to take from the fund balance because we can increase our revenue associated with the units that are being renovated, being eligible for reimbursement. So we wanted to make sure and capture that here. We'll add the account numbers and lines in the certified resolution to Mr. Denisha's amendment.
Any further discussion? No discussion, this is a roll call vote.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Motion carried. And on to chair's appointment, and I do have one appointment. Gotta do, okay, so that was the amended resolution, thank you, Kelly. Okay. Now for the original resolution. Roll call.
Smithers,
Roll call,
Yes.
Denisha,
yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Paul, Bay,
Yes.
Webster,
Aye.
Bert,
Yes.
Janet.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Kelly. For chair's appointment. I'd like to appoint Legislator Hall as the chair of a new committee, the local law review chair. There's several laws that are on our books that have been on there for several years, long years. Some may be antiquated, and I think it's a good time to have a legislator, and I hope I can get one from the other side as well to look at this and just come through with their suggestions. So I think it'd be good to look at. And seeing no further business, motion to adjourn. And Mrs. Curran, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Aye.
Mr. Jeanette and Mr. Forsythe. Any amendments? Okay. All in favor? Services, Mrs. Doyle is going to be. A Kingston operating insurance kind of contract extension for the fiscal year 20 statewide interoperable communication grants with New York State Office of Homeland Security and the Office for Emergency Services, moved by Mr. Jeanette, seconded by Mr. Forsythe. So this resolution comes before you to request both from the state and from the county that we extend the contract grant. The county's been very fortunate not to have to pay up to this point for any of our tower construction. And this will allow us to extend the contract so that the delays that we see associated with our next 3 towers, I believe one has been resolved with Potsdam. We have 2 in the Adirondack Park that we're working through. This will allow us to extend the use of these funds through the rest of this year. Questions? Any questions, Mrs. Doyle? Mr. Perkins, your name is upside down, sir.
So much. So the money's approved, what if the Adirondack Park said we can't put the towers in that we want?
So there are a number, I think, of contingencies surrounding tower height, surrounding location that we're considering, and we will continue to work within the confines of what they'll allow. Part of the challenge has been everyone recognizes the need for interoperable communication in that area. There's some challenges associated with receiving the approval.
But even if it doesn't work out that way, we can still use the, we still have the funds available, and will they be able to be rolled over again?
Not sure if they'll be able to be rolled over again, but our hope is their application will be considered very soon. And then if we need to make other considerations or find other locations, we'll talk with the state about what we can do with these funds instead. And then compete next year for additional funds. Mr. Denisha.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to Perkins' point, there, we have, I mean, obviously we want 2 towers. We want one in Star Lake and one in Cranberry Lake. But we do have, if the height restriction, if the EPA must enforce the height restriction, we do have an additional site, which is across from the Ranger School. So instead of having 2 towers, if we have to go lower, we'll need the 3rd tower at the Ranger School site, but it will still get us in the
And
tower we need.
thank you. Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll bring it up again. I can't believe that the APA trumps public safety again. So I hope clear minds prevail in this situation, and then we get 2 towers like we planned on and not settle again. But once again, welcome to New York.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have planning with Jason Fotenhauer. Hello. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a revised contract with Volunteer Transportation Center, Inc. to provide a call center for the first mile, last mile services, moved by Mr. Jeanette, seconded by Mr. Forsythe. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening. The first mile, last mile program is a volunteer driver-based program that connects public transit passengers to the bus system. And how it works is an individual will call in to get a ride to the bus stop. At present, it's the arrangements with the ARC entity, the bus managers. We'd like to shift that over to the Volunteer Transportation Center entity because they have more staff capacity and more familiarity with the first mile, last mile.
Any questions? Mr. Lynn?
So to fund this, you're going to take money from the current organization and bring it into this organization.
Correct.
Is there enough in there to do so?
Yes, it is.
Okay, how much is that amount?
It's about $50,000 a year.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a subrecipient agreement with the Developmental Authority of the North Country for delivery of the countywide housing rehabilitation program, round number 5, moved by Mr. Forsythe, seconded by Mr. Jeanette and Mr. Denisha. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, this is for the most recent community development block grant program that the county received. That was a $650,000 award that was granted to the county late 2023. We're looking to sign this agreement with bank to act as our subrecipient, essentially to implement the program.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for calling out.
I did get you the number of the person who has it.
Thank you. Next up, we have the sheriff. Welcome, Sheriff. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a federal equitable sharing program agreement and annual certification report for the sheriff's office, moved by Mr. Forsythe, Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Perkins. Ready to answer?
So, President Chair to sign the federal equitable sharing program agreement and annual certification report to the sheriff's office. This is done annually. The equitable sharing report, which is due on February 29th of the previous year. This one is being done for 2023.
Does anyone have any questions for the sheriff? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have a resolution modifying the 2024 budget for the sheriff's office with regard to interest earned on the Howard G. Buffett Foundation grant, moved by Mr. Jeanette and Mr. Perkins and Mr. Denisha and Mr. Forsythe.
So this is a grant that we received a little over a year ago in regards to human trafficking. The grant was a little over $1 million. It's required that the interest earned on this account goes back into the grant. The interest earned for 2022 and 2023 is $7,253.62. And this is for the guidelines of the contract. Yeah.
Mr. Lightfoot?
Sheriff, what was the amount again of the grant? Million, you said, somewhere in that area?
Just over $1 million. I'm showing $1,036.94.
Okay, so where's that money kept? Where's it deposited? Yeah, I mean, it must be in an interest-bearing account. Obviously, we're looking at interest. You know where it's deposited and what the rate of interest is or how it's invested?
I don't have an answer for you right now, but I will look into that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Turning the page.
If I may, I'm just looking at what the rate of return is on that, $1 million,
Doesn't seem like.
$6,000. It is not a lot of money, no question about
I
it.
said the same thing.
Yeah.
You're good.
Mrs. Haggard. Oh, I said the same thing to Mr. Webster. $7,000. May I make a suggestion? The treasurer invests clumps of money like that with New York class. And, we did that at Soil and Water, and what an amazing return on the. Might want to
do that. But I don't know what the guidelines or grant are to set up the account. So, look into it. I made a note here.
Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next up, we have a resolution modifying the 2024 budget for the sheriff's office for the fiscal year 2022 Operation Stone Garden Program Grant from the New York State Division of Homeland Security, moved by Mr. Forsythe, Mr. Jeanette. Go ahead, Sheriff.
So we're asking to move this money around because the money was allocated to the CMPD to purchase a LPR license plate reader camera. They opted out, so we need to receive that money and we're gonna purchase the license plate reader camera, but we're still putting it up in the same location in the same. So it's just basically requesting permission to move money around. Cover the cost of the LPR.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I have resolution modifying the 2024 budget for the sheriff's office to accept the fiscal year 24 police traffic services grant from the state of New York Governor's Traffic Safety Program, moved by Forsythe, Jeanette. Go ahead, Sheriff.
So this is a grant we receive every year. We actually lost about $2,000. We didn't use it up last year. So we're basically asking permission to accept this grant, covers the cost of overtime to get deputies out there over roads safe for the public.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Next up, we have resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision Office of Nutritional Services to provide food products to the St. Lawrence County Correctional Facility, moved by Mr. Forsythe, seconded by Mr. Jeanette. Go ahead, Sheriff.
So this is a 5-year agreement we have with the Department of Corrections and their food services. This is where we purchase our kosher food. We don't use it all the time. It depends on the inmate population, try to accommodate them for religious purposes and things like that. I think it might have been 2 years out of the 5 years. Just an agreement. It gives us a place to get kosher meals.
Does anyone have a question about that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we have one resolution modifying the 2024 budget for the sheriff's office for a patrol vehicle for the criminal division, moved by Ms. Forsythe, Jeanette, Mr. Webster. Go ahead, sir.
So we're asking that, as you may recall, a little while ago, we had a patrol vehicle get struck down here on East Main, Sunoco. We had a deputy get injured. This is to replace that vehicle. Extremely hard to maintain a fleet nowadays. Being down in car, it's a lot of mileage. So this is just to replace that.
Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff Engel, it seems to me they were trying to subrogate against the guy that hit that car. Was there any luck in that? Did you? No.
Because the correct wording, but they were not going to cover it because it was
In the process of. Oh, yeah.
correct.
Okay. Thank
And our attorney is also able to chime in on this. Mr. Button.
Yes, thank you. We actually did submit a claim against the insurance policy of the operator / defendant. The insurance policy disclaimed as an intentional act. The claim has been submitted onto the district attorney for restitution as a part of any conviction that may be secured.
We vote on this resolution. I just wanted to mention to you also that you may recall as a part of the reserves that we've created, we have created a sheriff's vehicle reserve. And so you may be wondering why we would not at this point pull from the reserve. And we spoke to the treasurer about this. We've had several discussions about this. And at this time, we feel as though that reserve is not yet fully funded. And we're able to pull this from our fund balance, and we would prefer to do that while we continue to try to fully fund that reserve. We're about, so that you know, we're about halfway there. But that's the reason it's coming directly from fund balance and not from the sheriff's vehicles. Any questions on that? Okay. All in favor? Sorry, sorry, Mr. Perkins.
Just curious, the dollar amount, that won't cover the cost of the vehicle. The vehicle must be way more than that.
I'm sorry.
No, 44,000, that I'm sure it doesn't cover the cost of the vehicle itself, does it? I would think it'd be way more.
It would cover the cost of the vehicle, but not the upfitting. So what we're trying to do to save some money there is the vehicle that was damaged. We're stripping that, it only had a couple thousand miles on it, right? So we're gonna take all the hardware off of that, we're gonna upfit the new vehicle with it. County Highway is gonna do it to keep the cost down.
So again, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Okay, sure. Thank you, Jeremy, I appreciate it.
Just have a minute of time, I got you all in the same room. Not everybody was afforded the opportunity to go through the jail. I know there's been some requests made, so to accommodate you folks to have a busy work week schedule. If you guys can get together a weekend that's gonna work for you in a time, let me know, and I'll meet you over there.
Thank you.
Next up, we have vacancy review summary. So we had 15 vacancies reviewed at our last vacancy review committee meeting. We had 2 legislators present with us, and these come from 7 different departments. But just in keeping with the considerations that the board has made in and around flexibility, I'd like to keep you apprised of every few months to give you an update on those positions that you allow to be filled without coming back to the board. Those include temporary positions, those include probationary, either departures or terminations, and those include positions where you may have someone in the position that's departed and the test has not been given. And so there isn't an established list. So the board's been very gracious about giving some flexibility in those environments. So just wanted to let you know we're at 10 so far. That includes temporary positions of 1 being created, 8 probationary, and 1 part-time. So just since January, that'll keep you apprised. We're also looking at right now a vacancy rate of 8%. That's approximately 70 positions. Our fill rate is 94% at immediate fill, 3% of the 30 days, 1% at the 90 days, and 1 has been held or withdrawn so far. Now, those statistics run on the August to August schedule, just to keep as a reminder. But that being said, on this agenda, we have 2 departments requesting fills. The sheriff's up first. Questions? It's a step.
You'll get used to a share.
This position is going to create and fill a detective's position. That decision was made based on the fact that we took full responsibility for the pistol permit application and background investigations. I had to assign somebody to that full time. On average, we do about 300, 350 applications a year in this county. I know there was a spike last year and the year before, it kind of dropped off, kind of been watching that. So I dedicated, somebody full-time to this position. He seems to be staying ahead of everything right now. I know we're only a month and a half into the year. I check with him weekly. He says everything is going as planned. He does have some assistance from, the part-time deputy. He's not doing transport. So the question is, why would we take on such a responsibility? Well, I spent the past year of my life going around talking to tens of thousands of people in this county. And they said, why don't you do them? When you hear it enough, you start thinking about it. I said, you know what? We will do them. If that's what the people want, and that's what I'm gonna do. Furthermore, there were some agencies that, would take a very long time to turn these, investigations around. We try to get ours done in 3 months. That's a stretch. Some agencies, 14 months, 18 months, and 2 years. That's unacceptable. These are law-abiding people. They paid for the background investigation and the application. I don't think it's fair to have to wait that long. The reason I say that is because over the years I've been involved in this. Because the process had been delayed, these people were denied a concealed carry permit because they fell within that timelines. So if their application would have been done in a timely manner, they would have got a concealed carry. They wouldn't have to spend the extra $325 to take the class. Did it affect everybody? No, but it did affect quite a few hundred people that were in that time period. Furthermore, and this is what helped me make my decision, is it's not my business, it's not your business, it's nobody's business what firearm a person lawfully owns. There was a questionnaire being added to the application, the background investigation, and they were asking questions. They wanted a list of all other lawfully owned firearms in that residence. I'm not here to build a database. I'm here to protect your constitutional rights. And in my opinion, when you ask that applicant at the bottom of the form to sign that under penalty of perjury, you're stepping on their Fifth or Fourth and their Second Amendment rights. And those are the reasons. And this is the reason why I need that full-time detective.
Questions? Mr. Lake?
One time, the members of the road patrol were doing, obviously, the lion's share of the pistol license applications in St. Lawrence County. And it would seem to me that if you've got a number of road deputies that had the time then, perhaps they don't have the time now, I don't know. But it seems to me that that would be the way to do it, to keep doing it. Is it, and the question I have is this a new full-time position?
So what happened is the deputy, I'm going to promote him to a detective because it's investigative position. So I'll just back up and elaborate a little more, Mr. Lightfoot. So the sheriff's office has always been responsible for doing the preliminary stages of the application, mental health and all that. I used to do it. The deputy that I'm looking to promote has been doing it for the past 8 years. The additional responsibilities that were taken on are just, we're going to conduct all the background investigations. We always have done the fingerprinting, the photographing, and initial processing. We're just going to take the background investigation part. You're talking about calling 6 to 8 references, calling the applicant up, doing a home visit, possibly just getting some more bio, putting it all together. If you got a good day, you sit down, you can get a whole lot of references, you can knock this out in probably 45 minutes. But the deputies, some of the deputies, they continue to help. If it gets to the point where we're burdened, I'll do it myself.
You're not gonna have time to do it yourself.
But I'll try.
the question that I asked is unanswered though. Is this going to result in a new position? In other words, you're gonna take a road guy and you're gonna make him an investigator. Now we've got a road guy, will you be back looking to fill that position?
At some point in time. I can't tell you that I'm not
All
going to.
right.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, and believe me, it's nothing personal. I am against creating a new position, not just in your department, but in any department. And I base that on this, Sheriff.
The request in front of you this evening is to abolish and create
To abolish,
the deputy and create the detective.
yeah, but I know darn well that's not gonna fly. That, the sheriff's gonna come back and he's gonna say, hey, I need that position.
Well, I don't think you gotta worry about that right now because there's nobody to hire. There's obstacles, but Mr. Lightfoot, I'm not gonna sit here, at some point in time, I would like to fill that position. I'm like you, I'm a taxpayer. I don't wanna, somebody has to pay for this.
That's right.
And that's exactly the way I look at it, and, before I make a decision, I like to think it through, and who's it gonna affect and how they're gonna affect them. I'm not in a hurry to ask for this position, to create a new position, a new deputy, but if there comes a point in time where I can't provide the service that I need to provide to the people, I may have to come back and ask for it.
I understand that.
Mr. Holmes next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair, this is on the topic, not a particular position, but that can still carry for a process. I was informed recently, actually from a constituent, that there's a pistol concealed carry permits in New York State. There's a 3-year required recertification process. Can you, if you're familiar with that, can you walk us through what that is? I think most people aren't even aware of that. And I think it would be helpful if we at least bring some light to what that requirement is, if you can. Thank you, sir.
Well, the best that I can understand it is originally it was supposed to be 5 years. And myself included, 3 years into it, I got an email stating that I needed to re-register my handguns under this law. I said, okay, so I got on there, registered again, and then there were a lot of people that were unaware that they had changed it to 3 years. And so now there's some people that have some expressed concern, what's gonna happen to me? Am I gonna lose my permit? Am I still lawfully possessing these handguns? I don't have these answers. I've asked and haven't gotten the correct answer. But I'll make a note of it and I'll continue to look into it.
Thank you.
Next up with Mr. Webster.
Just a question, I believe that when this is handed out to local police departments to do this, they're also paid a stipend or money for doing it, right?
That's our investigation.
Each of the towns get paid so much for a background. I
can't-
believe it comes out of the pistol permit. I think Norwood used to get it.
I can't answer that because I don't know.
Just if you don't mind checking that, if it is, and if you're doing it, it should be returned back to the sheriff's department.
Yeah, I'm unaware of that, so.
No, this, deputy, he's not just gonna be sitting there 365 days a year doing pistol permits. Also gonna be doing investigations and other work, right?
When needed. He will fill in if we catch a major crime, fatal accident, homicide. Yeah,
Can't help but think if we could spend hundreds of $1,000s for methadone and Suboxone for inmates, we can afford to hire someone to help law-abiding citizens get their pistol permits. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, as you were next.
I'm confused on this. Ruth, you said this is an abolish and create.
That's correct.
It's presented as a create and fill. What's the position that's being abolished?
The intent is the deputy that's in it now. Should be marked as abolished.
Yeah, it's marketable.
Should abolish and create.
Mine doesn't.
It's about.
But on your summary, it should be indicated as. It says abolish, read. On your agenda. So I think to the question and the conversation with the sheriff, I think we've also talked about the fact, like with other departments, if there is a need in the future and an additional position is needed, it would come back before the board to ask for another one to be created. That would have done.
Mine doesn't say about.
Mr. Burke, you had your hand up.
Actually, Glenn asked the question, but I agree with what he said. This is a service that we provide to residents. When somebody fairly fresh off the campaign trail, who's telling us what he's heard, probably a lot of what all of us heard. I have a hard support.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, sir. Next up, we have the county administrator's report is going to be combined, right? One of the vacancies. Position.
Local transactions. Currently have approximately 150 downstate killers. That goes back and forth a little bit. Last year, we had over $40 million passed through our DMV offices. St. Lawrence County retained over $3.5 million of that. There are 21 employees at the DMV when we're fully staffed, which we're not right now. Having the appropriate staffing level ensures the downstate dealer work is completed in a timely manner while still providing service to St. Lawrence County residents. It takes 6 months to a year to train a new employee so that they're able to work on their own. There's currently no available list, so we'll have to hire provisionally. I'm asking to fill that.
Questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week or 2 weeks ago at finance, I brought up the revenue shortfall. Showed a revenue shortfall. Ruth, you've updated me a little bit as far as the discrepancy.
Let me speak to that.
Yes.
So what we provide to you in the January Finance Committee report in the way of a fourth quarter update is what we know of at that time. I think Sandy and Karen reached out to Sandy to talk about how much has been received since. And I think we've seen an increase in about 353,000 that's been recorded with the treasurer's office since the quarterly report was filed. And so I think that, and then you'll see another number change when the unaudited results are presented to you in May, once the books are closed and everything's been reconciled. So we give you sort of that, status check when we see it in January, but often there's a delay in getting those reconciled and filed with the treasurer's office.
Here's a follow-up. I think I'm kind of coinciding with Mr. Lightfoot here as far as personnel and number of employees and things like that. I think he has similar concerns to what I'm starting to develop. Is there a way to hold this till we can get those finalized, or what would the process be? Or
You have the ability to either pass it through to the full board, you can hold it, or you can reject it.
is that done via motion, or how's that?
Yes.
Did I make a motion to hold this position for now till we can get that finalized number?
Yes, it's your second.
Like so.
Second by Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Webster. All in favor of holding it until we get these numbers?
All right.
Any opposed?
the administrator's report will wait until service meeting. Thank you. On to committee reports. The Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board, Mr. Janisha.
Madam Chair, Ag and Farmland Protection Board met on Thursday, February 1 at 6 p.m. in the Human Services Building on 310. And would have to say most of the meeting was taken up with discussion on the Ridge Road solar project. Concerns regarding it, especially related to the battery fire that happened down in Hall. And looking at some recommendations that we may be able to. The next meeting is Thursday.
Any questions for Mr. Janisha? Seeing none, on to the Alternatives to Incarceration Board, Mr. Burke.
There's been no meeting, there's nothing to report.
Sir. On to the Board of Trustees for Supreme Court Library, Mrs. Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Haggard. On to the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board. The last meeting was January 23rd. I believe it was 6:30 over at the 310. So there was a few things. One, there is a meeting on the 13th. I'm going to send everybody the link to it now that it's available. It's the state discussing the emergency services budget that they're going to put out for the next year, like what it's going to pay for, what people statewide are looking for, and the changes that they've been talking about. So please look for that in your email. It's 13th, I believe it's at 7 p.m. Anybody that's interested can log in via Zoom and listen to it. We talked about the committee that we put together to discuss whether or not we would be interested in having a certificate of need for emergency services for the county. They're kind of want this meeting on the 13th to see, because many other counties are taking over and getting their own certificate of need, taking over some either ancillary services. Some counties are taking over all of the emergency services and being the entity that runs and organizes it. There are a bunch of benefits that come with the counties having their own emergency services certificates. They are numerous. I've asked Mr. Denner to put something together for the month of March to come to us and talk to us about that. He couldn't have it already and obviously couldn't be here tonight for it. But there's everything from, there's billing advantages for every agency if we have that. And like Livingston County started taking over initially just the nighttime inter-facility transfers from hospitals when there was nobody available. And they have gone a few years into this and actually pay for their own services countywide with what they've developed. So there's a lot of information. I couldn't ever cover it all in this, but that is part of what they discussed. And then the number of calls, like their last part was, this is the number of calls that we're not answering in this county, and it grows. Some months are worse than others. Some agencies have larger shortfalls than others. But I think that everyone is starting to see that there is a looming shortage, and additional information I can give you as an executive that just makes us really need to be looking at more, and that is why I've asked Mr. Denner to put together a presentation for March. Is there any questions? I know you know more than you. Yeah. All right, seeing none. On to the Environmental Management Council. Mr. Manelli.
Thank you. We met last on January 17th. We had two of the members that had attended the Invasive Species Management of St. Lawrence Eastern Lake Ontario share with us about the invasives to watch for at the end of the year. It was put together by a like a compilation of Department of Ag and Market DEC and the SLELO Prism. So they kind of highlighted and showed us some pictures of some of the invasives to be watching. Also encouraging everybody, there's an hour to an hour and a half long training on invasives, and I map invasives through sleloinvasives.org. So we actually have a GIS data management system in New York State where you can go on and map. If you see an invasive, you can go on and put your location in and take a picture, describe it. And so they kind of can track using, people science to track invasives. So there is an online training to teach you about the invasives that they're kind of looking for and share with you what they look like and how to use the app on your phone so that you can log the coordinates of invasives when you see them. So please check that out. Also, Randy Young from the DEC was there. He shared with us the advanced notice of proposed rulemaking regarding freshwater wetland regulation. Comments are due by February 19th. Some of the key proposals for that include a larger buffer zone from 100 feet to 300 feet, and defining wetlands based on what's on the ground physically rather than what's on a map. So right now the practices when they're looking at wetlands and they're whether it's licensing or anything like that, they use them. And so the proposal would be to transfer to an actual physical, going to explore what's on the ground when they're looking at licensing and determining what's an actual wetland. So maps have become informational, not jurisdictional. So again, comments due on that by February 19th. And then finally, Sam shared with us a presentation from New York State Great Lakes Action Agenda 2023 and the current status of the application of the grant for the St. Lawrence Watershed Management Plan Revival. And if that grant is approved, it would create a manager and an advisory committee to reignite the St. Lawrence Watershed Management Plan. Our next meeting is February 21st.
Questions, Ms. Chairman? Seeing none. On to the Fire Advisory Board with Mr. Denisha.
Madam Chair, I have nothing to report. The last, the Fire Advisory Board is meeting this Thursday evening.
Thank you. On to the Jury Board with Mr. Sheridan. Bill, you're muted. Can you unmute your microphone, please? Okay, thank you. You said there was something. So on to the Planning Board with Mr. Fay.
Planning Board choose. Review for the biodigester, View Farm located on 6,182 State Highway 11. And another one was the town of Lawrence, lot subdivision located in the Piscatagoula Road. And basically, the meeting basically to complement the planning board and the staff for an extensive review was presented to us on the Rice Road solar project. And basically, to give you an idea about the review, it was 30 pages long for our review to look at. This is something that I'd like to compliment all the members of the committee, and some of the committee members do an extensive job of reviewing everything in these projects as volunteers. I think it's very important that we give them recognition for doing it. So meetings sometimes are not short meetings. And yes, that's quite of the stuff that I'll report on to you. Lisa wants me to add some.
Any questions for Mr. Fay? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Fay. Any? Oh, do you want me to hold the business today? Okay, so we're going to hold the new business and executive later. Do you want to announce now? No? Okay, so I need a motion. That's second by Mr. Denisha. All in favor? Aye.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's Mr. Jeanette. Oh, yeah.
Hello.
All right, I'll call to order our, well, Services Committee. Is there a motion to approve the agenda tonight? Current, thank you, Mr. Perkins and Mr. Jeanette, all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, approval of minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes, next meeting, Mr. Jeanette, seconded by Ms. Curran and Mr. Perkins? All in favor? Any opposed? Our first resolution this evening is going to be presented by Chase, what's here? Oh, you can come on down, I'll read the resolution. Proclaiming March 1st, 2024 as 5-hour free from social media Friday in St. Lawrence County. All in favor, or? Is there a motion? Mr. Manelli, second by Ms. Curran. I will hand it off to Ms. Chase and her group.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Not Monsall. I'm the chairperson for the St. Lawrence County Youth Bureau. I'm a junior at Potsdam High School. And I wanted to talk about one of our biggest initiatives this year, the 5-hour free from social media Friday. And I was requesting to proclaim March 1st, 2024 as 5-hour free Friday in St. Lawrence County. Basically, this is an initiative to curb social media usage, looking at all of its negative impacts on teenagers and their malleable minds. So we're looking to get your approval for this initiative.
Thanks. Is there anyone else that wants, from your group that wants to speak to this?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, my name is Alice. I'm also from Potsdam. I'm a junior at Potsdam. And so far, we've seen many benefits from doing technology for 3 days, like spending more time with family, focusing more on studies, even brain health has improved a lot. So, really big points.
Yeah. So we were actually collaborating on this project with a nationwide organization called Youth as Solutions. Basically, this organization is aimed at bettering teens' understandings of leadership in their communities and community involvement. It's a national organization, so we have the privilege of being in monthly meetings where they teach us about leadership, and we interact with other representatives from teen representatives from all around the nation. So we have members from Texas, we have members from California, and they actually gave us a $500 grant for this project to help us use it for advertisement, for any sorts of mediums that we need to spread this initiative farther. And we have a timeline with them, so we do need to get see the results for this. We're going to be taking surveys, getting some statistical data that we're going to be compiling into a video presentation for them, and we'll be gaining some insight from their responses.
Thank you everyone for being here. Is there any discussion? We'll start with Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, sir. I had a question. So with the data gathering, because I actually went, I scanned your QR code, and so yeah, it brings me to another side of Google Docs, right? I go through and I put in my information. What happens at 9:01? What's this email that I'm going to get? What's this other survey? What's this other data mining that you're trying to get from? Like, so I did the initial one. I did it. I signed up. Cool. Then at evening of March 1st, it says I'm going to get another survey. What's that survey?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. So the survey and the information that we had from before was a prerequisite. So we surveyed teenagers around the community to find a need and to ensure that we have comparisons for before and after. What we're going to be basically surveying is, first of all, did you complete this successfully? The level of difficulty it was to you, and did you feel any positive effects from this? Adverse even, probably not adverse, we're hoping not adverse, but hopefully positive effects, and it's just data that'll show if this is an effective thing and something to continue in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Smithers.
I would just like to congratulate you on bringing this forward. I think it has benefits, and I can tell you from personal experience that it works. However many years ago when our children were your ages and younger, during the summer, my wife instituted a couple of days a week for no screen days, and it does work. They benefited from that. I can assure you that there are benefits, so great.
Thank you. Yeah, so you, each of you must have received some flyers or posters with information. You can share these flyers, get some more publicity, so we can reach out to more people and make this more effective and have more powerful effect. So it has information on it too, with statistics and with our entire week-long program. If you want to look at it, if you have any questions.
John, could you turn on your mic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. I applaud you for bringing this initiative forward. I think it's a great idea. I'm amazed at one of these flyers. Number of minutes average per week on a phone, 500. That's per day, not per week, per day. 8 hours on a phone per day is that's just incredible. That's just, do you each look at your phone 100 times a day? Please don't.
Not that.
Please tell me you don't. Yeah, and as a 60-year social free person, you got to start with 5 hours first before you get here. So yeah, good luck to you, and I'll tell everyone about it. I can't believe these stats.
Yeah.
So thanks for pointing that out.
Mrs. Haggard.
Thank you, very good job. I don't know if you can address this, or Mrs. Chase, to distribute these to the community.
If you will, please, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. We thought that you would enjoy some of the colored copies too, dispersed in your communities.
Yes, yes, I'd be happy to. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Before I go any further, I'd just like to congratulate you, young man, on your presentation. You did very, very well. You're doing very, very well. And I have a grandson. It's also a junior in high school. And he has issues with the cell phone at times. But I think that's common to most young people today. And I applaud what you're doing very, very loudly. My question would be this: are you going to the other schools in the county to get them involved in this? Because this is something I think that is very worthwhile.
Absolutely. So we actually have representatives from different schools. We have representatives from Norwood, from Morristown, standing behind me. And then we have ambassadors from multiple different schools in the county that do the same job as I'm doing for my respective school for Potsdam. They do it for their school. They're doing as much publicity. Even our data, it's all compiled from all different schools. Colton's a big contributor to the data.
Are you able to include all of the schools in St. Lawrence County? Are they all participants?
Yes, all of the schools will be participating, and the reason why we wanted to come in front of you is that we don't want it just to be a team-led initiative. We want everyone in St. Lawrence County really trying to disconnect on March 1st from 4 to 9 p.m. because we also know, as you know, parents and grandparents and so forth, we're role models, and you know, we're really encouraging countywide to make this a social media unplugging event.
Well, I think it is some very good forward thinking, and you're taking some positive actions. Great job.
Thank you for your support.
You bet.
Mr. Denisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm proud of each one of you. It takes a lot. It must be intimidating to come before the Board of Legislators. And obviously there's a huge gap in our ages. But, you know, and one of the things that really looked at was actually the fifth whereas, the resolution for all St. Lawrence County residents. Because, you know, it's not just teens.
Absolutely.
I have noticed, that all ages, and it's almost like an addiction.
Yes.
I don't think it's almost an addiction, it is an addiction. And, I think to be aware of it, bring it to people's attentions. And, also think about, Riley Bastard,
Yes.
you know, in the increased awareness of predators. Are out there on social media looking to take advantage of people. It's not just young people, it's seniors. So thank you. Great.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you guys are our role models and beacons. So if you're addicted to your phones, then it's hard for us to dominate it, and vice versa goes the same.
I recently became familiar with a book called Little Kids. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that by Dr. Nicholas Kardaras. It was written almost 8 years ago now, so it's even, you know, things are even more severe than, but one of the quotes I recalled was, actually to Mr. Denisha, your point about addiction, this is in reference to screen time with children and young people. This is a quote from the book. Perhaps the most shocking of all, recent brain imaging studies conclusively show that excessive screen exposure can neurologically damage a young person's developing brain in the same way that cocaine addiction can. And if anyone's interested in reading more, I recommend the book highly, Low Kids. And, you know, not to be alarmist, but there are times when you need to really put out a message with some oomph behind it, because this matters. And so thank you all for stepping up in many ways, but in this area, we'll do our best to spread the word. My household will be observing that, no screen time for that 5-year period. So is there any other discussion or comment on Mr. Perkins?
Sure. I'd like to thank you for doing this. I think this is great. I'm not sure if you have goals to how many people you're looking to do this. I know you're doing the survey, so you'll be tracking it. So I'm hoping that this would be an annual or semi-annual or quarterly process. And if you could keep track of it and see what the effects are.
That's a really good point, and that is a reason why we're standing in front of you today, is that we are hoping that this is a legacy that our teen ambassadors are leaving. We would like to see this become an annual event.
Thank you. Anything else to share while you're up?
You're the top letter.
Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. So another reason why my teen ambassadors are standing in front of you is they had quite a busy week last week. They traveled to Albany with us on Monday and Tuesday. On Monday, they attended the annual youth leadership forum, and on Tuesday, they participated in the legislative day. And David, remember one of the words that you used to talk about in January is really wanting to see youth get out there, not be sitting on the sidelines, correct? So we had 8. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that I had 8 teen ambassadors really wanting to go. We actually had 9, but we only had to take 8. So they're here this evening to talk about their experience.
Yeah, so I had the privilege to talk to Senator Dan Steck. He actually went to Clarkson University, so he's near home. We brought up 2 big points in our conversation. First of all, voter participation. One key thing that he mentioned that really resonated was that he can't make decisions if he's not voted in, and neither can any of our representatives that we want to make our decisions for. So we can't have our voices heard. We can't have decisions that affect us positively if we don't vote and if we don't try to get those people responsible in power. And voting in 18 to 25 statistics, very low, extremely low. Younger people do not care that much. And I feel like that's something that we could possibly look into in the future. I think it's an important topic. And another thing is, so we actually annually adopt a brigade. So we usually talk to a brigade from Fort Drum that's going to Kuwait or someplace in the Middle East to serve. And we send them gift cards, we send them cookies, We do all sorts of things to make them feel more connected to home and to really appreciate their service. And that's something that he really appreciated since he himself is a veteran. So those were the two keynotes of our conversation.
I'm Angelina Vukovic. I talked to somebody and who is in favor of the 5 hours. But social media, you have to. Once we want to.
On Monday, participated in a youth leadership. They wanted to talk a little bit about some of the workshops they participated in.
So I participated in a social connection from how the mind of younger people is automatically afraid of small challenges that they haven't been known to since smaller ages. So she had us answer a question and write it down with our left hand, and the reaction of everyone in the room was surprising. Like everyone didn't want to do it. They were like, "We've never done this before. This is a little new to us," so they didn't want to do it.
My name is Taha A. Matala, and I attended the Exploring Relationships Around You and How to Promote Healthy Ones. And during that workshop, they provided an insightful slideshow that showed how relationships, and more than just romantic relationships, they showed how relationships, family relationships, friendships, can be toxic in all generations, and how you can promote healthy ones. For example, identifying when something is toxic and identifying when it can be healthy. Like relationships overall. Yeah, how you can identify positive ones with traits, including sharing things with a friend or a partner or a family member, being able to trust in them, knowing that they won't betray your trust, knowing that you can tell them things without being judged, avoiding manipulation tactics, such as show me who this person you're talking to is, or give me your phone password, for example. And it provided helpful insight in how to avoid toxic relationships, how to promote healthy ones.
Honestly, I had such a unique experience in Albany. I got to meet so many different kids from all over the state because so many different youth bureaus came to talk about their experiences and the different initiatives they're doing all over the state. I got to talk about how I'm breaking barriers to succeed in my own leadership skills and even with other people. So it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun doing it.
When we were attending Legislative Day, I sit on the board with the Association of New York State Youth Bureau. So, you know, we were asking for continued funding, focusing on positive youth development or YDP programs. And we know that last year our youth team sports was a one-time ad, and you know, we're a little bit nervous that we may not see it again this year. So we offered a lot of advocacy and, you know, continuing to see funding up here in the North Country for youth development programs. And Ella from Potsdam, she actually is a New York State Youth Council member. So she sits on our New York State Youth Council, and that was one of our asks, is to continue seeing the $200,000 funding as well. Okay. Anyone else?
I would like to thank Mr. Adam Simmons for his, for us being able to actually go and be chaperone to stand as well as Mrs. Chase. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I want to just thank each and every one of you for taking the time, sharing and being involved. I know the first time I walked into this room a couple years ago, I was asked to stand there and address them, and I was quite nervous. And you can see how that ended up for me. So good luck. But yeah, thank you for coming and sharing. And it's great. I hope this is, like you said, a legacy, something that continues for a long time. Mr. Smithers.
I just want to say how important this is. And what you said initially, I think bears repeating about the participation of youth in government. And this is reinforced by a book that I've been getting through for about 6 years by Condoleezza Rice called Democracy. And if you want to take the time to read it, if you've never heard of it, it was come out in 2017. And one of the things she says in there, which I just read today near the end, is that when people lose confidence in the government, democracy is in trouble. And I think in this country, I can see that we're kind of close to that now. And for youth to get involved and be interested in government is so important. So I just congratulate you all for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I'll call Ms. Zimmerman up. We'll we have a resolution from public health. Resolution is accepting performance. Yes, that's about it. First one is fix technological issue. Thank you. All right. In the meantime, if Mr. Sheridan starts waving his arms, can someone just let me know? Good. Our resolution for public health is accepting performance incentive achievement award funds and modifying the 2024 budget for public health. Is there a motion? Nisha, second by Mr. Smithers, Mr. Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as was mentioned at last month's services, we were looking to add in the money that we received from the children in the budget. This was from the New York State Year 11, December 22 through August 20. On board in Potsdam.
Discussion. Yeah, favor. Any opposed? Our second public health resolution is reappointing the medical consultant and nurse practitioner for the public health department. Motion. Ms. Curran, second by Ms. Jeanette.
This is a requirement from New York State Article 28 on Kentucky Health. In our last budget, this was identified. So while they are kind of, it's just that acknowledgement with licensure checks, making sure they are that excluded from Medicare reimbursement. So just that, you know.
be appointed years.
Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Carla. Next, we have community services. Alderman here, hello, sir. Our resolution for community services is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Seaway Valley Prevention Council for the comprehensive opioid stimulant and substance abuse program, COSP2 program fund for community services. Is there a motion, Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Burke, Curran?
Thank you. So this resolution is allowing the chair to sign contracts for Seaway Valley. They embed 2 certified peer recovery advocates into our addiction services side, which includes BOT. Representing the transportation specialist, which is sorely needed because of the amount of people that are now coming into the clinic on a daily basis, exposing. Sometimes not daily, sometimes weekly, hard, but a higher volume of people needing transportation. And so they work with MAS, Medicaid provider, and EPs, volunteer transportation. The other peer would be more boots on the ground, what we like to call it, doing a lot of community-based services, getting them connected to insurance if they don't have insurance, make referrals for housing, student security. We try to help out with that. So we're asking that it's not just kind of contract with Seaway Valley to continue this services.
Is there discussion on the resolution? Mr. Burke?
Jay, what was the overall work that agreement?
Yeah, we're just finishing up top of one. That was $900,000. We're hoping to get that pretty much closed out in the next month or two. We did get an extension to spend down that month, the rest of that remaining money this year. This is possible. We like to call it possible grant, 1.3, almost 1.3 college shop.
Where you could bring that kind of money in. This type of meeting as well. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to statistics updates.
All right, you're all very familiar with, our report out each month. Not a whole lot has changed, there's a little bit of an uptick compared to last month. We did get some, requests after pre-services to change the format. And inadvertently, the bottom chart on page 2 has the percentages that left out. We can update those and for that purpose. Apologize. In terms of the wait list, it says 12, but similar to last month, we had 3 that were lost to contact. Called and sent peers out and locate 3 individuals. And 3 individuals were assessed by the addiction counselors and were scheduled an appointment with the prescriber, but did not show for that appointment. So we consider them still on the waiting list as unmet need, but they are lost to contact. So it's really about 6 people trying to get into services.
Jay, do we have a policy on how long a patient remains in that wait list after they've been lost to contact? Is there a time frame there?
I don't believe so, but I can check. I mean, I think it's that we do everything we can with our peers.
Sure.
To
Ideally, we never get to the end.
I mean, sometimes, the phone runs out of minutes.
Mr. Manelli.
I know I've asked this before, but just wanted to check, have we made any progress in using contact some kind of a text contact instead of, I mean, I know as an administrator, when I have folks that I can't get a hold of them, I text them, and simply because if they don't have minutes, they can still respond to a text. They don't have to answer the phone, it doesn't eat their minutes. Sometimes people would just rather have those conversations than a person-to-person conversation. It's just lower stakes. Do we have a mechanism in place where we can reach out to people via text, whether it's like Google Voice or something like that, as a point of communication?
We do not. I mean, I guess that would probably be required because most people use their personal cell, right? So that would probably be prohibited.
Okay, I'm sure you could work with IT. There's lots of apps that will send that out. Google Voice is one of which that creates a number for you. But I just think that we need to meet people where we're at and or where they're at, and oftentimes that's where they're at.
I mean, also Intrado, which is our call reminder system, they also send out texts automatically, reminding them of appointments.
Are we able to utilize that platform to send specific text to specific patients?
No, it's not necessarily specific, it's more
So the written automated robo. Are you able to at least do a preliminary look and starting with IT to figure out what options would be available? So that not necessarily every single counselor having a, county phone, but some process where we could text the patient and have a phone. Especially on the heels of the 5-hour free, understanding how much people are on phones. And I saw a stat recently, people were ranking their greatest fears, and taking a call, answering your phone was actually on the list of people's greatest feels stress-inducing activities, as opposed to answering that. So we could comment on that, but that's the reality. So that'd be great. Mr. Burke.
Is the 12, which is that, 12 on the wait list, is that attributable to OTPs? No, what is that?
Well, those are individuals that have been seen by a counselor on the addiction side and typically think they might be qualified for in terms of level of services, but it would be the medical director that would make that decision. So they have yet to see the medical director for that.
And Mr. Burke, if the question is about the chart itself, that line is connected to the OTP label. The mental health and addiction services lines are at 0 in that whole chart. So that's why you wouldn't see them to compare. Does that answer the question as well?
It does, and I guess I looked at another chart, utilization for substance abuse, the percent of the time. It looked like mental health was fairly high. Substance abuse was down in the 50% range, part of during an 8-hour day. I was just, it's kind of nice to know that if we have some people on the wait list, we have resources to take care of that. And I guess it kind of begs the question, why can't we? Especially when you're dealing with mental health that has very high reports for utilization of time.
I mean, it's really where we're a little more pinched is the prescriber time, the medical director, to make that determination. I mean, these people have been assessed by the counselor and feel they need the level of TP service, the highest, our highest level of care on the patient side. And final determination would need to be made by the doctor.
Jay, of that 12, you mentioned 3 of those are cases of contact. Of the remaining, the 9 remaining, do you know how many of those are related to bandwidth limitations of our own team, or just the process of scheduling and time delays where people are trying to make schedules work?
Yeah. So there's actually 6. There's actually 6 lost.
Okay, sorry, in different places,
but
okay.
so there's 6 that aren't. To understand your question in terms
Of the remaining 6, I know we've had bandwidth issues. We're not able to see a patient immediately when there's a need, and so that that creates the wait list. But I also know there are other administrative reasons why a patient can have a wait list but not seen. And so the remaining 6, I don't know if it's the core of Mr. Burke's question, is what I'm saying, is this a bandwidth issue? Or is it administrative scheduling things where the patients are in the proper pipeline, they just haven't been seen? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we're hoping that those remaining 6 will show for their scheduled appointment.
Mr. Jeanette, you have your hand up.
I was just wondering, is there a better way that we can present this data? Maybe like summary pages or something, because all it is just seems like a bunch of convoluted numbers. And when someone asks a question, then I gotta get, I don't know, I get an aneurysm trying to differentiate these things. Hopefully the toner's not out, because right, because I don't, like, this is just a bunch of numbers, and then when someone asks a question, then I don't even know what the hell we were talking about that. Like every one of these, it just seems more and more convoluted, and then we get backed up into something, but we don't have summaries of something. We start getting like, you know, a nice summary one pager before you start getting into the details, because right, I think we keep losing it every the further we go. And again, I can't tell them more. Like
I wonder if maybe, you know, something I thought about earlier, maybe it might be useful that, just for consideration, have kind of a, at the beginning of this report, you know, what to look at, what's changed. I don't know, maybe just an outline of what you intend to highlight as we go through it. Maybe that, even if it's a couple.
well, I mean, again, I'm looking at this, like, you're right, I'm not in the room with you guys, the experts that look at this, but I have to look at this in like, great, yeah, I can untangle this all day long, it means nothing. Again, these just like, we keep getting back in these weeds of reports, the numbers, we don't know where they all come from. And it's like, when I look at all this, it's like, it's just all convoluted and not spaced well as this. Again, I'm just trying to make more efficient of this.
Mr. Burke, yeah.
To John's point, it would be nice, I mean, I think we all sit here wondering, how are we doing with this department, you know? And I'm an advocate of good summaries as well. It's nice to have the data points, but, you know, where do we stand as far as last month? How are we doing? Are we bringing in more money? The things that are in the back of all of our minds that we'd like to know. And again, it's nice to have data, but even nicer to have
Organization.
yeah, some kind of a summary of considering where we were the last month, the last quarter, how we doing.
And I actually went back to spring of last year, you know, trying to look at the numbers, try to, in my mind, get, you know, some of the trends, and we definitely are trending upward in a lot of areas.
For to your point, I mean, I think page 3 breaks out, and that's a relatively new breakout. Monthly basis, revenue coming into the department by service line or by area. I think a lot of our discussion in recent months has been around whether this is complete and what, you know, what it constitutes exactly, like what's inside each of the bucket, not so much the structure of the presentation. But if there are ways to improve the presentation, I think we should consider those and, you know, and clean it up. But I also want to make sure that we're still, you know, looking into the questions as far as the complexion and the you know, the reliability of each particular number. Did you make it to the report, Jay? Page 4. Don't know where. Was there anything you want to highlight on this?
Well, I don't believe so. The OTP as of the day, I think is 27.
Any other discussion?
I do have a question, and not to be answered tonight on the OTP. When we started that program, we thought that this could, in addition to being a much needed service, that could be a money maker that could offset some other deficits in the program. And again, not to put you on the spot to make Jay, but it'd be nice to know how we're doing with revenue.
Mr. Smithers.
Jay, on these charts on page 3 of the dollars paid versus dollars billed. Goes May, June, July, August, September, October, which is still, that's quite a lag in the information. So I assume these are the most current figures that you have.
Yes. We use a 3-month lag for these figures, yes.
And that lag isn't because we're delinquent and reporting things, it's because a lot of the insurances don't have to pay us for that amount, right? Any other discussion? Okay. Thank you. Well, now as we enter the fourth quarter, I'll invite Commissioner Seaver to come out. Current resolution under social services authorizing the chair to sign an agreement between the Department of Social Services and Adoption Star Incorporated. Promotion, Mr. Denisha, seconded by Ms. Burke. Commissioner.
Good evening. I had sent an email to all of you last Friday regarding this particular resolution. I don't know if you all had a chance to read it or not. Adoption Star is an organization that's been around for a couple of decades plus. They're licensed in 3 states. And they work with some of the most difficult to place youth that we have in the system. Their goal is to find adoptive homes for children that are in foster care or in residential placements. Once that child is placed, they provide services for 1 year, which includes multiple visits with a licensed clinical social worker, more at first and then tapering off towards the end of the year, educational support, a number of different services. They were referred to us by one of our residential programs. And what caught my eye is the ability that they actually have the ability to take some of these kids that we've had in residential for so long. Hypothetically, for example, if we have a child that's been in a residential facility for 5 years, every year, 1 year in a residential facility can cost the county anywhere from $120,000 to $160,000 or more, depending on the complex needs of the youth. This agency, however, there is a certain charge fee that they charge to the adopted family, but the county cost would be $18,100. Give or take a little bit based again on the needs of the youth, but that's the average of what was presented to me. So it's very rare that I see a win-win like this, where we have an agency who's willing and able to work with some of the most difficult youth we have, but at the same time, try and find a savings for the taxpayers of St. Lawrence County while we're doing it. It is in everybody's best interest for these kids to not spend so much time in residential places. Unfortunately, as kids get older, I think everybody understands that, adoptive placements, most people who are looking to adopt a child are looking for younger kids, not older kids, especially older kids that are in a residential facility. So with all of that in mind, I was very excited to find this and very happy to send that out to you ahead of time. And I am asking your consideration to move this resolution forward.
Discussion, Mr. Burke.
I think it's great that you're thinking outside of the box, Joe. I guess I wonder, actually, $18,000. Is that for every child we refer, or is that for every child that's placed through them?
Every child is placed through them.
Through them. Yes. The other part of that is, we're talking about high-risk placements. We're going to contract out for a high-risk placement. Is that?
So this agency, what they'll do is they understand the issues with the children, and they vet and they work with the adopted families to find family that, number one, wants children in this situation and is capable of handling them. They provide services to the family. Once that child is in that home, realizing that it's a high risk placement, that they'll go ahead and have, I think in the first 4 months, 4 or 5 visits every month or more from the licensed clinical social worker. And then that tapers off as, as the year goes on. But I believe that their program is one of the better ones that I've seen in terms of dealing with some of these high-risk places.
The high risk part of it, probably being that factor. I'm wondering about the liability portion for the county.
No, because so, first off, they're not gonna take a child out of a residential that should not be leaving a residential place. There's a lot of kids that linger in residential just because they've got nowhere to go. But children that are having the issues where they can't be out of a residential place, obviously, they're not gonna be, those aren't the kids we're looking for. We're looking for those kids that they just don't have any place else to go. And once a family adopts that child, they sign a contract with this agency. I could refer this to Mr. Bud, but I don't believe that there will be any liability on the county.
We believe there are homes out there doing high risk. We believe we don't have access to it yet.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Perkins. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Smith has had his hand up first.
Yeah, the 18,100, is this a fee when we initially place the child with them? Would there be a recurring fee? Is this like a yearly fee or one-time fee?
It's a one-time fee.
Okay, and then how many children do you think that would fall in this category? Just say.
I honestly couldn't say. We currently, and I'll get to that when I do the stats, I believe we have 21 kids in residential placement. I would say that probably the number of kids that would fall into this category would probably be small. Because number one, they have to be able to be adopted out. Kids have to be willing and wanting to be adopted. A lot of kids, they don't want to be adopted. They want to age out of the system and live on their own. So I don't think the number of them would be great, but if I could even get one kid placed, it's a win for that child, which is first and foremost for me, but also, the savings to the taxpayer. I think it's something we need to pursue.
Any of these placed now in Jefferson County?
I couldn't say, no, sir.
But you said it would save like 100,000 for the county?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, that sells me on it.
Mr. Button, would you like to be recognized? We see your mug over here.
I heard my name taken in vain and didn't know if you guys wanted me to chime in, but I'm working on my annual report right now for 2023. And one of the things that really stood out to me was we have, as I think the commissioners pointed out, a small segment of the children that are in care that do want to be placed, are eligible to be placed, and could benefit from this type of program. Unfortunately, we do have a small segment that have decided they'd rather age out in the system, and they will sit there and their days will continue to accumulate at expense to the county, and I think largely at expense to themselves. I think I've gone on record several times before in saying that the primary objective is to find permanency, and it's not a good permanent solution for a child to remain in a foster care setting until they reach the age of maturity/majority to leave the system. So this type of program, I think, could be of benefit. I don't know for sure yet, and I think you guys don't either. But anything's worth a shot if we can find permanency for at least one. It's a great objective to try to achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Mr. Perkins, did you still have anything? Mrs. Haggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask about other counties in this service.
Okay. Mr. Light, did you have a?
Yeah, I'm wondering about this organization and whether or not the focus is trying to get these kids, they're from St. Lawrence County, to get permanency within the county. If that's the case, that's fine, but to me, it sounds like these people operate in a wider area than St. Lawrence County and maybe even the state of New York. So if they are placing children without the state, without the county, what obligations do we have following up with them as far as finances are concerned, whatever? And what if this doesn't work out? Does that fall back on us?
So if a child is adopted out, we would continue to pay the adoption subsidy as we would any other child that gets adopted out of a foster care situation. If a child goes to a placement and it doesn't work, up until a certain age, they have the right to sign themselves back in and come back into the system and go back to a foster home or whatever they came from. And again, children have the right to say, I don't want to be adopted by these people. I don't know, as to your question or your statement regarding, you know, they're wider net, they're licensed in 3 states, New York, Ohio, and Florida. And I actually, you know, we rather, without having a child in the pipeline right now, I couldn't say, you know, where they would be trying to place.
But if I may, but it's likely that they could be placed outside of New York State.
Possible.
Okay. And that there's very little then that the county would be responsible once they've each reached the age of majority. They're on their own, are they not?
Well, the adoption subsidy ends, can go up to 21 based on if the child has complex needs, it can go a little higher. But yeah, for the most part, you're correct.
You know what would bother me about this is there's, you know, somebody ends up in a family in Columbus, Ohio. We don't know what's going on out there. We don't, you know, we're sending money. That kid could be up and gone, and that family could be getting a check every month and hanging on to it. So, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of things that we don't know, are aware of that could happen that we going to be false. So thank you very much. I think it's a good idea.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Button, you're recognized.
Thank you. Joe, I did want to make this observation based on your line of questioning here. Under the administrative regulations that are issued by OCFS, there is a preference for placing children within the jurisdiction in which the child's separation from their biological parents actually arose. So while it is theoretically possible that they could wind up elsewhere, even potentially outside of New York State, that doesn't actually jive with the expectation or the preference that is put in place under the law. So every effort is supposed to be made in order to try to be as least disruptive to the child's life as possible. Obviously, I think we all recognize that the foster care system in and of itself is a disruption. And where we can make steps, not only is that our objective, I believe that's really the mandate that's put out there by the state.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Ms. Curran?
So as someone who works in a system that sees the people that actually end up going to residential treatment, and in residential treatment, I can tell you that many of these kids end up there not in a way that you would think, trying to be as big as possible. But anytime that you can take a child and offer them an additional opportunity to have as normal a childhood or something that resembles more of a normal childhood than being in an RTF residential treatment facility, which is, I think that it's beneficial to try simply because you're talking about their developmental years and how they're going to be as a person and whether it costs you $18,000. Find a family situation for them where they can, you know, end up with a loving family, a supportive, normal relationship with other human beings. It's very much worth it. I would be supporting this because just like anybody else, sometimes the parents that have them are not a good fit for them. Some of the stuff that happens to them while they're growing up in said home creates some of the behaviors that then have the child end up in it. And we really should be duty bound as much as possible to try to help them be rehabilitated and fit into a normal family. Give them that developmental opportunity to be part of it.
because aging out of, and I've dealt with children who have aged out of the adoption and foster care system. And that's a really tough start. So even if you're 16 and you put them someplace where they have a hey mentor kind of person, you know, you can teach me how to do this, I would better understand life. It's beneficial.
Mrs. Haggard.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second for the motion, Mr. Burke? Any discussion on the motion? Well, there's no discussion on motions table. Mr. Button was gonna pop up if we continued on that. All in favor of the table, this resolution to the next services committee? All opposed? Okay, the nays have it, so remains open for discussion today. Further discussion on this, Mr. Jeanette, did you have your? Okay, is there any other discussion on the resolution as it stands? Commissioner, do you want to speak to this at all any further?
I just, I wouldn't be recommending this to you. I have a long history of working with I've been the director of several residential treatment facilities in New York, North Carolina, Florida. And I can personally speak to the outcomes of children that have spent their entire childhood until they reach majority in a residential treatment facility versus those that had an opportunity to be in a family, even if it's only for a couple of years. I think that we would be remiss if we did not take an opportunity to provide that chance to a child.
Well, obviously, this is just mini meeting, so Haggard, if you think it's appropriate, if you share any of those remaining unanswered questions with the commissioner, we may be able to get some answers between now and full board, to share with the board.
I'd like to do that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Voted, Mrs. Haggard, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Burke also. All right, Commissioner, you have some updates for us.
More statistics. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I got a package, that's all I'm saying.
I will try to be brief. So I'll get the first page. We had 64 referrals in the month of January for our child protective services unit. That's right on average for us. We see that, you know, in January when school starts, you know, it jumps up from where it was in December because kids are back to school and more referrals are being made in the schools. Also, I mean, if you take a look at the two charts right below it, our indicated uptown and far responses, again, we're all right at average, staying pretty much where we normally are. I think it's a great, it's a very good outcome when we have 43% of the cases that come in that can be treated as a FAR case and provide services for these families. And only 14 cases or 9% were actually indicated. So that's not bad. Also looking at safety checks completed on time. Again, there's a month lag, so we don't have January's data, but we are back up to 100%. And that's something that we do stay on. Moving to the next page, on page 2, we had seen an increase a few months ago when I had explained, you know, we had some turnover, we had COVID, we had a bunch of things that hit my staff. So the caseloads went up. We are seeing them come back down, and we are back under that 15 threshold where we like to be. So we are right now, as of the end of January, underneath that 15 caseload recommendation from OCFS. Moving on to page 3, foster care and preventative services. We have, I was kind of hoping we would get that number down under 200, but we have 212 children in care right now. If you take a look at the breakdown here, we have right now 21 children in institutions and residential facilities. 122 are in other foster care, which would be our our partnership with, Children's Home and Berkshire and a couple other, companies that work to, provide foster homes. Our net change to children in care, we added 13, but removed 12, so we went up by 1. I like to see that number going the other direction, but you never know what's gonna come in, this case, or how the judge is gonna respond to some, so. Only 1 added to care is, it could be a lot worse than that, so. And again, our average number of children in care, if you take a look at it, we're at 212, and granted, the year is young. But over the last couple of years, we're seeing that number drop considerably, and I project that to drop more as the year continues on. Moving on to page 4. Again, looking at caseload sizes, our foster care preventive caseload has dropped slightly down to 9, which is good. I think that's gives our staff a chance to breathe a little bit, and I've got some of them working on some different projects right now, so that works very well. Take a look down at the bottom. Average number of children in home receiving services is come down from last year. It's at 148 from 187 last year. Ideally, I'd like to see more kids getting services at home rather than being moved elsewhere. So that's something that I do grade A supervisor on that side, and I've been discussing and working to continue to work towards that end to see, how we can bring that number up and the other numbers back down. On page 5, only had 3 adoptions go through in January. We have 44 kids that are free for adoption, and we're just looking for to get those cases moved through. We have 22 that are free without an adopted resource. So. And again, if you take a look at the foster care at the placements, we had our average is 20. So in an institution, I'd like to see that come down considerably. Our number of hours we had 175 cases, and the breakdown of the hours for the visitation through YAP and through Family First and ours, our office is broken down for you there. On page 6, homeless placements are down, which makes me very happy. And the reason for that is because of the warming center. I don't know if anybody saw the article in North Country Now recently. It's been a huge success. We've received a lot of really positive results, positive praise from it. There is some interest in possibly next year working with the same organization and looking at another one elsewhere in the county. But if we can keep those homeless placements down because people have a place to go and be warm, I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And in the meantime, get them some services where they can find some permanency. So the next 2 charts we have here for you for the caseworker training period for CPS and foster care preventative. The charts that you have in front of you are not accurate, and I apologize for that. We had kind of a snafu that we didn't discover until after it went to print. For the foster care and preventative, we only have 1 in the pool right now. The other positions were filled with staff that aren't in training right now, just because we needed to move some people around. But right now we have 1 person in the training pool for foster care. On the other side, CPS, we have a couple that have just started. One that's supposed to start next week, and we have a couple vacancies in our training pool. So we have 3 in there right now. So I apologize for the year we didn't catch our mistake till after it went to print. So I do apologize for that. Moving on to, well, that's it for services. Unless anybody has any questions, Mr. Mel.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask on the adoption activity reports. So free for adoption, you know, that are waiting for paperwork and stuff. And I know that in the past we've looked at this number because it seems that once they're free, there's kind of a lag. And that was one of the biggest reasons that we really advocated and did the study for the second family court judge. So we have 44 that are free for adoption. Do they already have an adoptive resource and paperwork is being filed? Or they've been freed and there isn't necessarily somebody that's been designated as an adopted sponsor?
No, I believe that. I mean, let me take a look at the chart again, just so I can speak So we have the 22 that children are free that don't have a resource. And the 44, there is a resource. They are working through the paperwork, the investigations, all the things that have to be done. The other thing that we're experiencing is unfortunately, with one of our family court judges having been out for surgery and substitute judges, things have slowed down a little bit. And I'm hoping that will pick back up.
Me too, and I understand that. I just think about these 44 families that are waiting for permanency and waiting for just that final stamp of approval so that they can make things official. What is, and you don't probably know right now, but if you could get the information, average number of days once a child is freed from adoption, of how long before those adoptions are able to be finalized?
I'll find that out for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Commission, in your previous discussion, you used a phrase until you reach the age of majority. What is that?
In New York State, age majority is 18.
So. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Perkins.
Thank you. Free for adoption, there's 44 of them. Do they have the ability to stay with the family that they're being adopted with in the meantime?
I would believe so. I believe some of those people who were waiting on adoption already have the children in the homes foster placements.
Mr. Button, would you like to be recognized?
I can be. It's my office who actually handles the litigation associated with freeing the children for adoption. I was interested in the question that was posed by Legislator Terminelli regarding the duration of time between the actual separation or freeing of the child to the point at which they actually get adopted. And there are so many different factors that go into that. Oftentimes, the largest delay is prompted by appeals. And while the appeals are going on, while they are technically classified as freed, the child cannot move forward to complete permanency on adoption, which tends to be a difficulty. And some of those appeals can take years. We had one appeal in particular recently decided that had taken, I think, the history that was recounted in the decision indicated that it had been 14 years of litigation. The appeals themselves had taken all of about 8 of those years, if I recall correctly. So imagine being a kid, you've been technically freed, there's been a determination for termination, and you've had to wait for the appellate process to work its way through the system and try to get a resolution. Very difficult situation there. With respect to Mr. Perkins' question, obviously the preference is to be as least disruptive to the child as possible or children as possible. They do, in most circumstances, and when I say most, I'm talking about the vast majority, stay exactly where they have been during the period of time from being freed until they're adopted. And most times I know that our DSS home finders really work hard to make sure that they are placed in households where the household is in fact open to the idea of acting as a permanent resource for that child or those children if there are siblings that are involved. So to get to Rick's question, the objective is definitely to place them in a stable environment that they are not moving from.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Hand up. Hand up before. Sounds good. Mr. Commissioner, you have one more item, right? A proposal to expand services to the governor area.
I do. I'm excited to talk about this with you. I've mentioned in a previous meeting that we were kind of looking to put some information together to move in that direction. So as you're aware, in the last couple of years, we have opened offices in Messina and Ogdensburg to varying degrees of success. All of it's great. We have different models in each area. In Ogdensburg, we have 2 children's services units, CPS and foster care. In Messina, we have a CPS unit, but we also have TA SNAP, fraud investigators, and employment and visitation working out of that unit, and it's been very, very well received. So with that in mind, we've talked about decentralizing the need with such a large county that we have to get the services out to the people. Meet people where they are, not force everybody to drive all the way into Canton 3 hours maybe to where they happen to be in the far corners of the county. And Gouverneur is that southern part of the county that we really haven't made a lot of inroads to. We have had, in just 2 days a month, the presence at Clifton Fine Hospital served about 100 people since we got there and have received rave reviews. the town supervisor for, Governor has spoken to one of my staff out there requesting more services. So my idea, my proposal, and Ms. Doyle and I have talked about this quite some time, and she's been wonderful help, is to put about 7 staff members in the space that I believe the clinic had vacated out there, the building that would be shared with probation. And I'm looking at a caseworker for CPS, and a foster care or home finder caseworker out there to work that side of the county. I'd like to have 2 TA SNAP examiners, an employment counselor, a visitation staff member, and a fraud investigator on that side. So that I have staff members, if something happens in the community and they need to be out there, a CPS investigator or a fraud investigator has a case on that side of the county. We're not having them drive all over the county to try and get to where they need to be closer, but also to have some vital services there, the TA SNAP and employment and visitation right there in Governor, so that people don't have to keep driving into Canton to deal with this. So I have some numbers here for you. In Governor just in the zip code, not looking at the surrounding counties that would come into Governor. There are 1,320 current TA SNAP cases involving 2,208 citizens. I think if we had 2 social welfare examiners there, there's a lot of people that could benefit from that, not to mention the people who will be coming up with future cases going to need that assistance. So I don't know how long you guys have had the copy of this to take a look at, but I think I've laid it out with some good stats there to support the need that we have in the community. And again, I think the move to decentralize can only be positive for the citizens of the county. It's our services closer to them. Our staff spend less time in the car trying to get to to where they need to be. I don't really see much of a downside, so I would like to put this out there for your consideration.
Start with Mr. Denisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a great idea. You know, when we first talked about the satellite offices, get the services out there to the people that needed them, rather than expecting folks to come here. That was, a lot of those folks are just getting transportation to come to Canton. It also cuts down on the travel times from Canton to the far parts of the county. So I think it's a great thing. And you know, your last sentence says it all. Additional departments of services for the decentralized service. We can serve the greater number of citizens with easier access. I support that.
Mr. Smith.
You've described the benefits very well to us. What about the cost involved? You say this would be utilizing a building that we already have obligations in, so there'd be minimum cost there. We already have personnel. So what do you see as the cost involved in this?
Can I defer that to the county administrator? So I don't have those numbers.
We can portion out the difference of when they would occupy to the end of the year for what's in this year's budget. The goal here is to occupy space that's currently vacant in community services when they shuttered their clinics. So we can get those totals for you if the board is supportive of moving forward. We also would see some reimbursement associated with this space that we don't currently have access to, associated with the different types of services that are there. And recognizing the combined effort of other departments there are some sensitivities to it that we would be mindful of. And that's why I think the model that we're using in Messina is more appropriate here. In Ogdensburg, that is a standalone, and so it is very child-centered, child-focused. Here, we would be looking at some other services. So we could run the reimbursement associated with what the square footage would be in the model that commissioners presented and share those with you.
Mrs. Haggard.
Mr. Chair. Legislator Denisha said everything I was saying. Agree with them 100%. Great idea. It's a wave of the future. Excuse me. To get out and be in the community. So thank you.
Probably already on that about this, but with the people who work in Governor, be people that already work in Canton, but they'd be able to work in Governor if they wanted to. That sort of.
Yeah, depending on the assignment, I mean, there may be, I don't know how many of my staff actually live in Governor. I would like to think that we could provide them the opportunity to work a little bit closer to home.
I think it would be better. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Light.
I'd first like to say that this area is a very needy area with respect to social services, and I can attest to that from personal experience working in the Governor area. So I'm very happy to see this. I think you're going to get overwhelmed down there, and you better look for bigger office space. What I don't see on the list of employees, though, are there any supervisory personnel? How do you expect that you would oversee the operation with no supervisor there?
Because we have representatives of so many different units, it's difficult to put a supervisor out there from any one unit. What we're doing right now with the two areas that we have is I take a day or sometimes 2 a week, and I drive out to Ogdensburg to make sure that things are going the way they are. And Deputy Commissioner Hamilton, he handles that in Messina. We would be doing the same there.
Okay. And it's working?
It's working very well so far.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner, on the same vein, I just have a question of curiosity. I didn't prep you for this, but what's something that you've learned from your leadership role and the operation of your team, moving to a more satellite, a model that supports satellite operations? What's something that you've learned and something that you hope to apply in if you were to move to this new satellite location?
I think it actually comes very merges well with another project that I'd like to get towards, and some things that we've learned first through COVID before I was here, and then through our 2 satellite offices. We have an opportunity to go paperless. Moving to these satellite offices really helps us and forces us to move in that direction. So you do things electronically rather than kill all the trees that we kill. So one of the things that I would like to do, I have a little over 3 years remaining on my term, we'd like to be paperless as possible. I think that these satellite offices have learned that we can do that.
So would you like to speak to that?
You know, I think in our efforts, which Ogdensburg was first, there was some oversight to some minor details, which I think led us better success in our move to Messina. And at the beginning of these conversations, it was also something that no one wanted to leave the core unit in Canton. And now there's great debate over, at least as I understand, who will get the opportunity to work in these locations. So I think that we had our first almost 2 years, maybe 1 month shy of our first 2 years in Ogdensburg, where we didn't lose a single employee from a unit that has a terrific, in a bad way, a terrific turnover rate. And so that speaks volumes to me. Being able to move further to the southern portion of the county that I think we all agree is underserved is also something I think as we look at opportunities. We've decentralized in highway, we've decentralized in social services, being able to bring a variety of services down that direction, I think can only improve what we're doing and why we're here.
During the discussion, Mr. Webster.
Have you had any problems at all with security in Ogdensburg or Messina being away from the main building or security?
No, not yet. I mean, we have concerns. I mean, there are things that we've thought about. There was a situation in Messina some months ago where there was a threat in the community. I'm not even sure, so we had a lockdown. And we learned that day what our procedures need to be for the Messina office. We are making sure that we have appropriate surveillance instruments in place, cameras, whatever we need to have that to make sure we're safe. Ogdensburg is kind of a self-contained building. The units are there and they don't bring a lot of clients into the building except for visitation. Messina, we really haven't had a lot of concerns so far. I'm gonna knock on wood. But right now the model seems to be working well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith.
I would point out that there's a village police office that's just around the corner from there, and there's a state police barracks a mile down the road.
Free security, I love it.
All right, seeing no other, oh, Mr. Beck.
So I say, one thing sometimes you don't think about is these people, what I see lately is basically the car breaks down or can't pass inspection. You know, these are two things that a lot of us don't even think about. That these people don't have, I ran into the lady the other day. It took her 4 months to get the money together to get a car. I'm sure she's probably a number of things. If you move forward.
Well, Mr. Thank you for bringing this up. I won't dismiss you yet. I keep doing that, but I won't make the same mistake this week. We have vacancy review committee. Well,
We do, and on this agenda, there are three of our largest departments. No, there's
That
no
wasn't,
no
that wasn't the
resolution.
motion. It was just informative.
To make sure and bring a resolution forward, yes. There's, Tonight. 5.
Good evening, again. I have, the first vacancy I have is an account clerk, from our accounting unit. The individual that is vacating that position, retiring after, I believe, a 30 to 33 year, one of the two numbers, career, with the county, with social services, for the majority of that. So I'm very, pleased that he was able to have such a wonderful time, and sad to see him go. This position works, runs the window at accounting, so deals with public coming in to make payments. Is the first space that people see when they go down to accounting. They work with a lot of different areas, making sure that the paperwork flows where it needs to go, so that things get reconciled and everything keeps moving. They also provide some support for our imaging, for our accounting unit documents, and helping with the mail runs. It's kind of one of those integral positions that just has a little bit of everything. So I would ask your consideration and allow me to fill this position.
Questions? Okay, next one.
I actually have two social welfare examiner positions in medical services. Are they both in chronic care? Yep, both in chronic care. Both of them are vacated because individuals were promoted to supervisory positions, to senior positions in other units. So that's great that we kept them in the county. Our examiners in chronic care unit, they do a lot of our eligibility determinations. Now, those eligibility determinations are skyrocketing right now, going through the ceiling because of all the relaxed eligibility and requirements for rebudgeting and everything that's come down from Albany. So our staff are really, working their fingers to the bone right now. In 2023, the chronic care unit examiners processed 523 Medicaid applications. And if you've ever done a Medicaid application, there's a lot to it. It's a significant increase from the previous year where there were 408. And I'll tell you that we're on a pace to go much higher than 523 this year. A lot of the paperwork that has to be gathered and investigated and inspected to process a Medicaid application is handled by these examiners. Having two of them out right now is difficult. So I would ask for consideration for these two positions to allow me to fill them. Particularly, I was gonna say they're also 100% reimbursed.
Questions? As a reminder, just as you mentioned, trying to track a little bit better with those positions that stay within the county that's at the top of your vacancy review summary. Just a reminder. Next up.
This position is a support investigator on child support unit. This lady was with us for many, many years and has retired. But left a lot of some very big shoes to fill. This position interviews clients who are looking to seek a financial or medical child support order already established, helps with violation petitions, handles a lot of our incoming mail, referrals from the support helpline through New York State Child Support. The program benefits approximately 5,000 families, which annually receive a total exceeding 12 million in child support. Having this investigator out, there are only 4 So they're handling a lot of cases right now. So having this position vacant is making it very difficult. So I'd ask your permission to push this forward for filling.
Question? And then last.
Last but not least, I have another social welfare examiner, this time in daycare. Our daycare, I'm sorry, the individual that was there resigned due to health reasons, just couldn't make his work, and it's unfortunate because we do miss her there. Our daycare unit is swamped with the additional funds that have been put out there for daycare for providers and for daycare recipients. The numbers are going through the roof, and we don't expect that to turn around anytime soon. This examiner is responsible for documenting attorney eligibility for approximately 234 children, 117 families for monthly reimbursements. They increased the family income to 300% of the state income standard. And it's going to be going up again. They also removed the 17.5-hour work requirement for people who are pursuing post-secondary education. So, and I actually met with a representative of the Child Care Council here the other day. They are going to be doing some advertising to try and round up more child care providers and to notify more of the individuals that need child care services that don't think they would qualify, that yes, they actually do. So I see these numbers continuing to go up. So I ask your indulgence in filling this position.
Questions?
Mr. Perkins.
Not specifically to this position, but on the reimbursement rates, and I know I've asked this before, and the answer was the reimbursement rates are what are there, and always been there. Have we checked at all? Do you keep track to see if there's any updates? Like this one right here, this social welfare examiner, 72%. Daycare is 100% in the Medicaid. Do you keep track of that to make sure that they're current?
As much as possible, I think we do need to take a look at those to get them updated. I think it's been a little while.
Just make sure we're getting the right reimbursement.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Commissioner?
I just want to know, I'm just processing the vacancies that have come through your departments in the last few months. And I just, anecdotally, I'm seeing a high number of promotions, retirements, and explained resignations. And I want to commend you and your team, Deputy Commissioner Hamilton. That's admirable. So please send that along to your team. I know there are some areas where just turnover is always so high. But from a community, the mission was on the bottom of your proposal for the satellite office, right? Self-supporting was the goal. Have people be able to be self-supporting. And so having consistency in the departments is key to that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have community services. There's 2 positions tonight.
So the first position is a case manager position. We had a case manager in the mental health clinic years. This person hired back in 2006. She has since retired. So we're looking to fill this case manager position again on the mental health side. The last reported revenue for this position for a calendar year was $101,000. So it did pay for itself. So we're looking to fill this.
Questions on the case manager position? Okay, next one.
So we have in a new grant that is an outreach and engagement grant, and we were awarded that to hire 2 case managers on the addiction side. So we have a category 10 case currently working embedded in DSS, supporting child protective services that we would like to promote to a case manager position. I believe this is the second, possibly the third, dependency case A that has taken advantage of getting their case at moving up ranks.
And just as a reminder, this program, the co-location program, is a very successful program in social services that started because of a grant. It actually worked the way that most grants hopefully should, in that we found the success of this program, funding was discontinued. It meant enough to the county to continue the program at county cost with a contract with social services. And in recent years, we've grown that by one position, correct? And so now there's a supervisor and there's 2 case aides. And they really are able to get in on the CPS investigations early and assist folks with getting into treatment if that's appropriate. So this is really a program that, you know, the grant sort of feels the field for where, if it will work, if it's going to be successful, and this has been one of those examples. So happy to see that folks are taking advantage of that.
Mr. Burke, does the grant cover all their salary, Jay, or are we getting reimbursement? Yes, as well.
The understanding that the grant initially covered 1 case aid and the other 2 would be a county expense.
Subsidized by the state? Or no?
I don't believe so. I believe it's cost to the Department of Social Services.
Right, so there's a contract in place. The department pays community services, but they get reimbursement against the contract.
We provide a supervision.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Director? Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, sir.
And last up is Carly, with 3 positions to talk to you about tonight. 1 fill, 1 abolish and create, and 1 create and fill.
So this is on. I'm still to see something. Challenge. Certainly, whatever. I mean, that's
Abolish and create.
This one is for a senior service coordinator position. So for those who aren't familiar with our department and kind of how we're set up, we have our children's program side and prevention side. People use lead, poisoning prevention, and things like that. So we do have 2 community health nurse positions on the government. We've received. So with this position, we're looking to abolish the community health nurse position on the prevention side. We know it's vacant, it's been vacant. And then while, and when the overseeing the service coordinator positions, which is the community health nurse position, when we retired, that position will go over to the prevent side. So in doing it this way, it's really threefold. So one of them being it kind of builds that career ladder for our service coordinators. So there's that option to be promoted to that senior service coordinator position. As it stands right now, it's not so much a possibility. So to be a service coordinator, you could be a nurse, but there's no requirement to do so. So it just gives that opportunity for having a large number of applicants that can possibly fill that position. And by doing it this way, it also gives us a chance to have that new person. She's been there for quite a while. We're pretty lucky to have her, and just to be able to have her share some culture with us.
Questions on the abolish and create? And then lastly is the create and fill.
So this one is for our principal account clerk. This is our fiscal department, and
It oversees really the pre-K program, which this group has talked a little bit about before in the past. We work very closely with schools, making sure that we have all of T's crossed, I's dotted for all that documentation that we need to be reimbursed by the state. This is not a position that can be taught in 2 weeks' time. Unfortunately, it needs a lot more time. Again, we've been very lucky where the person that has built this position has been in a position for decades. And with creating this new position, we're hoping to be able to again pass on that knowledge from the person that's been in that position to the new person filling that position. And I will note on the vacancy documentation, it does say that the position will be vacated in 2024. At the time of writing that, that was the information that I had. Unfortunately, there's some circumstances and variables, so I'm thinking if the board is open to it. Thank you.
Couple of updates for you this evening. I've got 2 transfer funds. As we continue to move towards the closure of 2023, Treasurer's Office works with departments and where some funds need to be moved. We like to avoid resolutions for some of these smaller ones, and you've been gracious in continuing the local law that allows that. So the first one is for the early intervention program, a transfer of $4,900 over to their direct service fees. They came in higher in 2023. And the second is an exact amount of $99.72 associated for emergency services. That is part of their reconciliation for the rollover to occur with their grant funds. So those are the 2 transfers for this week. Wanted to mention to you that Chairman Forsyth will be taking a group, including myself, tomorrow down to the Development Authority for a visit to both tour and to talk recycling. So we're being hosted in the morning and should be back in time for the afternoon meeting, which is an internal staff meeting to discuss the school resource deputy program with the new sheriff and under sheriff. So we've been taking a look at different models around, taking a look at opportunities he's had to speak with school superintendents with programs in place. And so I have requested that Legislator Denisha and Lightfoot, who were the origin of the program at its inception, convene with us to go over some things. Assistant Administrator Bajork has put together some rates associated with what we're looking at. We understand that schools are in a situation with some changes in funding sources as they move further and further away from COVID, which provided different and new funding sources for them, that they may be looking at a variety of considerations for the upcoming school year. So this gives us an opportunity internally to talk about the value of the program, to talk about options that we have. And then hopefully this meeting will lead to a discussion with the superintendent sorting the program now. We also want to include the BOCES superintendent for that discussion. As we know, there are many schools who do not currently have the program, who may want to pursue it in the future. And there are also very well-developed programs in our larger village school districts with the local PDs. So there isn't necessarily one size that fits all. But we want to continue this conversation, kind of assess where we are. We're a few years in now, and chart a course to bring back to you for consideration in the future. So that will be coming up. Wednesday, we'll be meeting a small group with the city of Ogdensburg to discuss 2 of their programs in and around 207C, 207A, and discussion about a shared services conversation for the county attorney to take a look at some of those aspects of the work that they do. Our Buildings and Grounds Committee will meet on Wednesday this week as we prepare for our capital project. We've had our kickoff meeting and all but shut the building down. So working to move on Friday to begin closure of Pearl Street, to begin placing the fencing and actually move into construction mode. So we're going to have that meeting Wednesday afternoon and go over any last minute. Much appreciation tonight for the special board meeting to approve Labella. As you all know, with family court improvements, we are in a very short timeline as construction projects go. Labella understands that and is working with us already. They're very familiar with court structure, courtroom setup. So we're looking forward to moving that project forward and seeing resolutions come forward for approvals once we get out to bid. Next Monday, wanted to mention to you, all of our offices, with the exception of our 24/7, 365 offices, will be closed with respect to President's Day. And then just to mention, unless there's other questions at finance, we want to bring you, and I'll share with Chair Forsyth's appointment of Legislator Hall to the local law review. We're bringing forward the ethics law for consideration and revision for amendment on the Finance Committee agenda. Also, as talked about last week, the consideration for approval of the airboat purchase. Also talking in discussions around health insurance and resolutions that we've talked about bringing forward relative to any overdue payments, as well as consideration for eligibility for health insurance. Those will be on the Finance Committee agenda as well. And then with, I think the good favor the Commissioner found tonight, the discussion with expansion for Governor, we'll bring you a resolution that includes the costs that we're looking at, which really is a shortfall of existing costs that we already have, being that we're already in a lease. But we'll line those up for you and bring those in resolution form so that you can approve that expansion if you so choose. Any questions?
Hope we're all listening.
I can repeat.
Next, we have committee reports. Board of Health, Legislator Curran.
Thank you. So we had the January meeting, we got our monthly updates on lead, the COVID-19 situation, which includes how much problems people are having getting Paxlovid once it's prescribed to them. I know that we have a sort of a network set up, not the county, but the local pharmacy. So they keep track of who has Paxlovid, and they will send the patient someplace if they need a prescription. Say it's sent to Kitty's, they don't have it, they'll say to the patient, I know there's Paxlovid at Walmart, and they will send them there. And then we had the sanitarian update, the update on Walk with a Doc. I believe that there's a Walk with a Doc coming up north. But coming up soon. And then the community health assessment program, we had the presentation by Anne Marie Snell. And so I will forward that to you because it's lengthy. There's a lot of information in this. And we'd be here till like 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight if I gave it all to you. So I will send that to you. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Curran. Any questions? Okay, next we have CDP Board of Directors, Legislator Burke.
CDP meets next Wednesday, the first report.
Sorry. Community Services Board, Legislator Hager.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of things. We met on February 6th. We had a presentation by an organization called START, and I'm not sure if that's an acronym or that's your name. Jay probably could answer that. And they're a crisis prevention organization. So what they try to do is, for example, when somebody, and this happens quite frequently, I believe, continuously calls the ER or 911 and has problems with that. They are a full service provider that can work with the schools. You have to have be receiving Medicaid to be eligible. And it starts at 6 years, clients and 6 years old. So that was very interesting. And then we updated the language in the downstream provider contracts for the opioid settlement money. We have 7 downstream providers, and that was quite complicated, at least for me. And that's it. Our next meeting is on March 5th.
Any questions from Mrs. Hager? Office for the Aging Advisory Board, Sarah Denise.
The Office for the Aging Advisory Council met this morning, 10 o'clock. And I would like to share with the board something that was presented to us by the aging director. And it's in regards to the New York State budget priorities. And and I'm going to read part of this verbatim if it's okay. New York State Governor Hochul recently submitted a proposed budget for the coming year. Every year, New York State reports that it will be a tough budget year. It prepares everyone to not expect significant increases in the budget. However, when preparing the budget, it seems that the governor has forgotten about the 4.6 million older adults, the 4.1 million caregivers that provide essential services to those older adults. I want to back up just a bit when he says a tough budget year prepares everyone to not expect increases. I think Assemblyman Robert Smullen, and I watched this channel, New York, you can watch some of the New York State legislative things. And Robert Smullen put it really, really well, that keeping budget appropriations flat in these inflationary times is in effect a cut. Some statistics I want to share. Approximately 20 million people currently in New York State. Of those 20 million, nearly 9 million, close to half, are either over age 60 or a caregiver of someone over 60. The entire New York State Office for the Aging budget is approximately $200 million. Approximately half of that $200 million goes to New York City. Older New Yorkers, this is astounding. Older New Yorkers pay $72 billion per year in state and local taxes. Yet only receive 0.8% of state funding for vital services. I have got a couple other things here. Some of the things that, as we're all aware of, well, the governor's indicated there's no additional funding available for aging services. Governor's budget has allocated funding $100 million for the park system to celebrate their 100th anniversary, to renovate a bathhouse in Jones Beach, New York City, Long Island. $100 million to build 10 swimming pools downstate and provide pop-up pools. Guess where? New York City. I've asked Andrea if she would put together a resolution that I can bring before the board. I hope to have it for finance. Our next meeting is Monday, April 8th.
Is there any questions for Mr. Janisha? Legislator Terminelli, Advisory Board? You already had a showcase tonight?
Yes, so after that, I have nothing else to say. That was just a mic drop. No, I mean, you know that we've approved all of the funding allocations of the last board meeting, so those are all submitted and ready to roll, push out to folks. A reminder that the Valentine's Day card drive that's in conjunction with the Office of the Aging, that wraps up on Friday. So if anybody's been making Valentine's cards, we need to make sure to get those to the Youth Bureau. And then the only other things that I wanted to touch on were the Teen Ambassadors trip and then the 5-hour free Friday. So they did a phenomenal job. I really, to see them speak here tonight is amazing because I know the training that they go through as being members of the teen ambassadors for the youth committee. So shout out to Alexa and to Adam for the dedication that they give to these youth. If that's our future, then we're in good hands.
Thank you. Any questions for Legislator Terminelli? All right.
Oh, our next meeting is tomorrow. Youth Bureau meeting tomorrow, sorry.
Is there any old business, and keep in mind if it was in your mind for our operations meeting, this is the time to bring it. Legislator Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Even with legislator Reagan gone, Mr. Denisha stole a little bit of my thunder. But that's all right. You tough act to follow. Priorities, New York State priorities. Someone told me years ago, the biggest crime you can commit in New York State is growing old. And I think it's true. I think it's absolutely true. You looked at the budget, $100 million for the pools, veteran services being reduced, the schools are being reduced. But we can still come up with $2.4 billion to house and feed illegal migrants. Think how far that would go. United Helpers is closing an assisted living facility with 30 beds. 2 weeks before that, we heard Star Lake's closing 10 beds. 2.5 years ago, United Helpers closed another 100+ beds in Ogdensburg. Where and how do we prioritize our elderly? It is gone beyond belief. These people don't ask for a lot. They contribute. They've done their life and they just want to live out their life. Where are they going to do it? What are we doing? I've got note after note after note. Andrea had sent an email yesterday and I responded to her, you know, the elderly, they always take the blunt of the pain. And it's got to stop. I reached out to Senator Steck last week. I said, where are our priorities? Someone's got to be listening. I just can't fathom these things. They want to close our prisons. They want to do everything except take care of our old people. How do we even listen? If someone's got a suggestion how to get New York State to listen to taking care of our elderly, I'd love to hear it, because to me it's the biggest assault on humanity there ever was. Humanity is ruined because these people just have no place. And now you got to drive an hour and a half to see your loved one. And it's sick. So I'm not going to go much longer, but I guess it seems to be cyclic. It's just going through the motion. I love watching the youth come here, really. You know, they are our future. They got to take care of our elderly at the same time. So, geez, someone start listening. But I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I am paying attention, and I just can't get over it. I just can't wrap my head around.
Mr. Beck.
Just like I had somebody said that, pick up the paper and read our, we're losing our health care for our elderly at the same time that the people in the zoo and Watertown. It's some extremes that I have a different point of view.
Thank you. There's also, Becker, they want to change Medicare. And that's the service to many of us. With grandpa being
Mr. Name. One more. It's the news that the new stadium, Governor Ironworks got a contract for all the steel for the new stadium for the Buffalo Bills, which is a significant portion of that is going to be paid for by New York State. Oh, we can't help our elderly. We can build a brand new football stadium for a privately held corporation.
Thank you for bringing that up. And one of the young persons tonight gave us a clue on what we can do is encourage these younger folks to get more involved in politics. The answer is to vote. Vote your priorities and get them interested in their grandparents, parents taking care of the elderly people, and them coming here tonight showed that they're interested. And however we can encourage that something that we can do. There is a declining interest in voting. People have less confidence in government. These elected government officials like us need to pay attention to what the needs are.
Is there any new business? Hearing none, there need to enter executive session.
There is for litigation, negotiations, personnel, which is the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, for matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and appointments.
Is there a motion to enter executive? Another statement. Report that, Mr. Okay. We're back up in session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, perfect. Adjourn.
Yeah, email every day, everybody. Get your girls some
Margaret.
stuff.